Welcome to Modular Games, everybody. My name is Kyle, and today we're going to be talking about this book. In particular, we're going to be looking at the game D&D, and we are going to be asking whether this game meets three parameters. First, does it meet its original design parameters? Are the assumptions made during the original design being satisfied? Number two, we are going to assess the player expectations. Are the expectations of the players actually being met when they play this game? And number three, is the lore being satisfied? There's certain lore that is more or less consistent regardless of what campaign setting you choose in D&D. And do the core mechanics actually support that lore? Second issue, player expectations. Players expect these encounters to be difficult. They expect to have their lives being put on the line, or their characters' lives being put on the line when they're going adventuring. And a lot of DMs are able to solve that problem, but by default, the lethality level of this really depends on that game of attrition. And if you're not having that attrition going on with resources being cut down, it's harder, a lot harder, to put your characters at risk with just one deadly encounter in a single day. So how do we fix this? Well, we're going to use a quick and dirty approach. First, we're going to reduce the overall damage that player characters are able to put out. And second, we are going to reduce the amount of hit points that our opponents have. The end goal of this is that we want the output in terms of damage to be about equal between players and monsters, and we also want these combats to be over a lot faster. If you have a combat session that takes an entire hour, then it kind of gets boring. There's a lot of time between turns, and it just doesn't maintain the interest of different players. You want them to be quick and snappy over and over again. You go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If you have the wizard looking through for what spell to... Okay, you're bored already. How many seconds did that take for you to get bored? Okay, so we're going to cut the total hit points of our opponents in half. The monsters just take their stat block, cut the hit points in half. For characters, it's a little more complicated. We're going to reduce the damage values. We're going to hit the spellcasters first, and anytime they have a damaging spell, they're going to deal 2 dice fewer damage than they normally would have. If that reduces your damage output to 0 dice for a spell, then we're instead going to increase the spell level of that spell by 1, and we're not going to reduce its damage dice. Now, for things that are not spells, or things that just have 1 die of damage, we're going to reduce the damage dice by 2 die sizes. So for the Battle Master Fighter that has superiority dice that are D8s, we're going to reduce those D8s down to a D4, which I know it feels bad, but I told you at the beginning this is an across-the-board nerf. When your opponents have half as many hit points, the fact that your bonus damage is also half doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't hurt you at all. But it makes it more balanced between you and your opponents, so you're not going to just trounce them. In order to get combats to go a little bit faster, we might want to do a few more adjustments, but we'll hold off on that for a later time.